Welcome to Loco Gringo, Mexico, where we can take you beyond the usual on your vacation. Each week we talk with amazing locals who know the Riviera Maya and Yucatan like only locals can. Get real tips to real places, insights on the local scene, culture, and cuisine from a local's perspective. So pour yourself a margarita, mezcal, or tequila, grab yourself a comfy chair, and let's get the show going.
Hola, everybody. Welcome to Loco Gringo, Mexico. So glad you could be with us today. My name is Kay Walton, your host, and I'm thrilled that you could tune in. We're going to be talking to just an incredible individual who has been here in the Playa del Carmen area for years and years. He has been, and the accolades are long and many. He's a fellow of the Explorers Club. He is a National Geographic Society Grantee, a National Geographic Adventure Magazine Best of Adventure Honoree. He's a NASA Space Grant Fellow. He is a PADI and GUE Cave Technical Diver. And he has appeared in numerous documentaries with the BBC, PBS, National Geo TV, CNN International, and the list goes on. And one of the things that is not listed on his resume, but I'm very thrilled, is that he is also one of my closest friends. I am thrilled to introduce you to my friend Sam Meacham. This episode is brought to you by Playa. You know, lots of people ask us for information and help when it comes to real estate, whether they're looking for retirement, an investment property, or maybe they're looking to relocate to the area. And we refer them over to our friends at Playa. The folks at Playa we've known for years, and they'll make sure that you, the buyer, are fully protected and informed when it comes to buying real estate. So if you're looking to buy a piece of paradise, check out our friends at buyplaya.com. Hey everybody, this is Kay here, and I'm sitting with my friend Sam Meacham, and what's really exciting is that Sam and I have been friends for lots of years. Lots of years.
Many.
Sam is originally from, do I want to say Austin? Or Maine?
Well, that's a good question, but Austin, Texas is the easiest answer.
And what year did you get here?
I arrived in Quintana Roo in 1994.
Yep.
So I think a year after you got here, maybe 2 years after you got here.
Maybe almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And I remember when you came into the dive shop in Puerto Aventuras.
Yeah.
As a young, strapping lad.
Well, yeah. Diving. That's what links us together.
It is what links us together. So how did you wind up? And I know parts of these stories, but over the years I forget. So why the Riviera Maya or the Cancun Tulum corridor back in 1994?
Yeah, good question. So. Let's roll back the tape to 1984, and I was here in Akumal on a family vacation with my grandmother and my parents. Scuba diving was something I'd always wanted to try, and there we were in Akumal, and I'm with my parents and my grandmother, and as much as I love them, it's a little boring. And my grandmother said, "Hey, didn't you always want to try scuba diving?" And I said, "Yes." And so she gave me the opportunity to do my Discover Scuba in March of 1984 with a gentleman by the name of Mike Madden, who was one of the pioneers for cave exploration here. And 10 years later, I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life, and diving had kind of reared its head again in my life, and I remembered this beautiful place and the fact that it wasn't an island, which I'd lived on before, and islands are very kind of constricting, and I just thought this was a cool place to come to because I could drive here and there was a lot to do besides diving.
Yeah.
So 1994, I piled in my car and drove down here, and with Mike Madden at CINDAQ Dive Centers in Puerto Aventuras, I did my instructor training course for PADI to become an open water instructor. Ended up working for Mike. And
we all worked for Mike.
We all worked for Mike at that time. He was pretty much the show on the coast. And then eventually worked for Aquatech Villa Starosa, where you and I worked together. And then just kind of branched out on my own, got a lot more involved in exploration, thanks to you and Gary, and I formed a nonprofit association in 2000 that the Centro Investigador del Sistema Acuífero de Quintana Roo, which is basically the mission is to raise awareness about the aquifer, the cultural and natural resources associated with it through exploration, science, and education. And as you well know, the aquifer is out of sight and out of mind and hidden from view, and therefore people just don't know what they don't know. And so it's very, very important to kind of bring the caves to the surface here to show people just how absolutely incredibly beautiful they are, and the incredible story that revolves around them, from the ancient Maya civilization to the earliest human inhabitants of the Western Hemisphere, going back even to the time of the dinosaurs and the giant meteorite that struck what is now the Yucatan Peninsula 65 million years ago.
Can we talked to a lot. I've talked to a lot of divers and a lot of people in the area. I tell people, go visit the cenotes. Go visit the cenotes. Well, can you explain a little bit in like real basic understanding of people what these cenotes are and why they're so important to the area? What makes them such a unique feature to this area? Sure.
Yeah. So I had a good friend once say that the cenotes really are the unique geographic identifier for this region. There are thousands of them. There's an estimate of somewhere in the neighborhood of 8,000 to 10,000 cenotes across the entire Yucatan Peninsula. And what they are, they're these little windows into the aquifer down below. And in some cases, we can descend into a cenote and disappear for hours and travel through an immense cave system. In fact, in the area around Tulum, we have two of the longest cave systems, wet or dry, anywhere on the planet, Sistema Sakakhtun and Sistema Oxbelha. And they're both in the neighborhood of 270 kilometers each. There's a ever-growing possibility that they may actually connect to one another, making them an absolutely massive cave system. And what's important to realize is these cave systems are the conduits for the freshwater aquifer for this region. So along the coast, we have Xcaret, Tres Rios, Xelha, Xpuja, Yalcu, all of these caletas along the coast, which are the major outflows of these cave systems. But really, all you have to do is go to the beach here and wiggle your toes down into the sand, and you'll feel that cool, fresh water seeping up from down below. So Yucatan Peninsula, it's just a giant sponge. And made of limestone, the Yucatan platform, which extends up into the Gulf of Mexico, it has a surface area of about 250,000 square kilometers, and it has an average depth of about 1.2 kilometers, so about a mile thick of limestone. And of course, limestone is conducive to the formation of solution cave systems, and that's what we have here. And they're this incredible, very sublime and surreal environment to travel down into, and very susceptible, unfortunately, to the pressures of development on this region as well, from solid waste and sewage, which are the two things that I think concern us the most.
I can see that there's been a lot of development, and the preservation of natural resources has always been a concern for many of the people who live here.
Yeah, and it's the goose and the golden egg, right? Yeah. And so we have this incredible golden egg, both natural beauty and cultural beauty here, and we've got to protect it and make sure that it can last. It's the 100-some-odd mile strip of beach between Cancun and Tulum represents somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 12% of Mexico's gross domestic product. So wow. The millions of visitors that come here every year and the billions of dollars that they leave here in return are extremely important to Mexico, and obviously very important to the regional economy, But we've got to ensure that that can continue well into the future.
Now, I've known lots of cave explorers over the years, and I think one of the beautiful things is you have a gift of language, and you actually build relationships. And I mean, what I think a lot of people, visitors to the area, don't realize is that the Maya are still alive and well, and you're out in the jungle working with them and everything. And what's your experience in working with, like, socializing and being with the Maya out there in the jungle in terms of their appreciation for their environment and how they are in this world of fast development? Yeah,
so, what's your definition of progress, right? and so I'll never forget an experience I had with one of the families that lives on the way out to Coba that's been so helpful to us and has taught me so much over the years. And I was always just so envious of the very simple life that they had in their palapa hut. And, it was just very, very easy basic life and basic life, and without all the trappings of the first world. And, there are a number of sons in the family, and they all grew up and went out to work in the workforce and started making money. And, of course, one of the first things they bought was a huge screen TV and a satellite dish, and I'll never forget walking into that palapa hut, and there it was like a movie theater. Half of the village was sitting in the palapa watching kung fu flicks on the big screen TV, and for them it's progress. And who's to say I'm not going to get in the way of anybody's desire to have those kinds of things, but for me, it's like, they just kind of, there goes, in a generation, no one's going to remember that kind of very basic, simple life that they had before. But overall, I think in cave diving, particularly in this area, there is no unowned land. You learn that day one in a cave course. And so really building those relationships is the cornerstone of what we do. And, we have relationships with our group of explorers that we've maintained now for close to 20 years. And still the gates swing open for us when we want to go out and do work and explore. And I'd say it's one of the things that few people recognize or realize is how important those relationships are, and how much work goes into establishing and maintaining them over the years.
It's like any other relationship in life, right?
Well, it's true. And I think it's really important. I think we've been able to succeed is in many ways in really trying to engage the communities where we work with what we do. And it's not hard, because you show up with the amount of equipment needed to do what we do, and people start descending into the cenote in the middle of a village, which people have lived in for generations, always wondering what was down there, and we can immediately descend. And in today's digital age, with our GoPro cameras or other means of media communication, we can immediately document that which we find down there and show them what they've been living on top of all these years. And it's such a cool connection to have.
What kind of reaction do they have when they start seeing these parts of the cave and this video footage?
Oh, it's cool. I mean, it's one of the most satisfying experiences I can give someone, is to reveal to them, it generally in most of the villages in the Yucatan, their towns are built around cenotes, so it's an integral part of life as a source of drinking water. And you never, usually, you get down there and there's some Coca-Cola bottles and old buckets and things like that. But occasionally, there's the biota, the life around the cenotes and in the cenotes, the formations. Occasionally there's relics from the ancient Maya civilization, and relics even going back to the last ice age. So it's pretty pretty cool stuff. And it's just, I think it's an incredible way to engage the communities where we work and keep them involved in what we do. And we you know, wherever we go, we always try to also employ the local communities to help us. I mean, we've got a lot of equipment that needs to get moved around, and so we can kind of also provide a brief form of employment to the people who we go and see.
What's the, I guess, what would you find? I mean, you know, the one thing that being an explorer is that, you know, we're always kind of going, where's the cave go and everything. And, you know, it's always, I know for me that was always a constant curiosity which kept motivating me. Is what's your motivation, your personal motivation to keep doing this? Because it's been 20 years or so.
I was only supposed to be here for 6 months, Kay.
I know, that was my story.
I think it's most everybody's story. Yeah, no, so what keeps me fascinated by all of this, and it's a multifaceted answer. I guess to understand me, if we sitting at this table right now were to put out a jigsaw puzzle, I would not be able to leave the table until it was put together. And I have that kind of brain that is just, I'm fascinated by puzzles. And I think that the cave diving exploration in this area is the most complex jigsaw puzzle anybody could ever try to put together. And there are all these little bits and pieces. We don't have the box top that has the picture of how it's supposed to look. We're just kind of putting the picture together piece by piece. And selfishly, in my lifetime, I hope that we complete that puzzle, but I'm fairly certain we won't. No? It's an ongoing thing. So there's that. It's just, it's kind of my character, I think, is I'm fascinated by figuring stuff out, right? The other thing is, yeah, it's the 21st century and we're exploring. And this is some of the last true physical human exploration left on the planet. You know, no rub against mountain climbers, but I just don't get the point. I don't see, you know, I've climbed mountains. I've been up high enough to look out and get a great view, but what's it doing for science, right? Mm-hmm. And the exploration that we do here is, we literally have no idea what we're going to find. It is true exploration. We're going into the unknown. And not only that, the scientific value of what we divers can provide to the scientific community is unparalleled. And we basically are the best autonomous underwater vehicles that science can have. And we're a lot cheaper, unfortunately. But we work with a variety of different scientists doing a lot of different things. And basically, they can tell us, go here, do that, and we can't. And so we're helping in the realms of hydrology. We're doing working with McMaster University in Canada with an incredible project doing core sampling in freshwater lakes and cenotes here and within the caves themselves that is helping us see the picture of this area and climate change in this area and frequency of hurricanes and sea level rise over many thousands of years, and just kind of put the pieces of the climate history in this area together. We're working with the National Institute of Anthropology and History to, understand the Maya relics we come across. We're working with them also with paleontological sites, trying to understand what this place looked like during the last ice age. And it's really one of my ambitions, like many little boys when I was a kid, was, be an astronaut, and that didn't happen. But this is about as close as we can come to that kind of exploration. So it's exploration. It's exploration with meaning and purpose, and it has a direct impact on, how we understand this area, and hopefully how we protect this area, how we conserve this area. So that's the motivation. And I just, for a lot of people, you mentioned I'm a cave diver, and they immediately think you're, some crazy person. But there's this unfortunate misconception that cave divers are these adrenaline junkie, kind of Yahoo, throw caution to the wind cowboys, and it is all about risk management. And the fact that we can repeatedly do dives that, in some cases, our dive team is traveling, kilometers back into the cave and doing whatever they have to do, and then returning and doing it safely every single time, we must be onto something, right? So it's the caves for me. I guess the final thing is it's my escape from the real world. And cell phones don't work there. The news doesn't filter into there.
Thank God there's some place in this world to get away.
Exactly. And it's hard for a lot of people to understand this, but it is one of the most sublime and peaceful places that I know of on this planet. And it's my fortress of solitude. It's where I go to build resilience and strength and build myself up when I get knocked down.
That's beautiful. Now, you talk about your dreams and aspirations of being an astronaut as a little boy. What I have to bring up is the fact is that you have a family you have dragged along in your quest.
Yes.
And how has raising your family, essentially for the most part here in Mexico, raising your family here as their dad is off into the jungle, exploring and following your passion and everything, has that had any impact on your family?
Well, first and foremost, I have a wonderful, beautiful, and accepting wife who is a saint. And she's also a diver, and we met working at Mike Madden's dive shop back in 1994. And so she gets it. And she understands my need to be outside. I've tried working in offices, and it's really hard for me. I have to be physically active outside doing stuff. So I'm very fortunate that my life partner is someone who accepts what I do and allows me to do what I do. Somehow I'm able to make a living doing what I'm doing. And my sons are, we're in the middle of doing their open water class right now.
Cool. That's great.
Yeah, it's not something I've ever really wanted to force them to do, because it's, you read stories of the astronauts and how other kids would be like, wow, your dad's an astronaut. And they're like, well, yeah, but he's just my dad, And so I don't want my kids to feel forced into diving, but obviously I want them to experience in some level what I do and where I go and where I disappear to for great lengths of time. So we're slowly working on that, and we've done some dives in Casa Cenote, and they've really actually liked it a lot, except they're very skinny, so they get cold quickly. So you need to find them some wetsuits. But anyway, it's exciting to have kids, and it's exciting. I think the best education you can give your children are the experiences you give them, and of course, school is extremely important, but to have them living here, their mother is French, the father is American, they live in Mexico, they're trilingual right off the bat, and they live in a beautiful place where they can run out the door and be with their friends, and I think it's a fantastic place to raise children.
No, it's absolutely beautiful, and I know your family, but a lot of other families who have chosen to raise their kids here and have had say nothing but positive experiences in having a family here. Yeah,
no, it's great. We're just kind of immersed in it all, front row seats to the amazing cultural and natural heritage of this area.
When you talk about the heritage of the area culturally and the natural environment, we have a lot of people, a lot of our listeners in that come with their families to visit the area, or they're looking at it as a possible destination to immerse their families in another culture, or to get away from whether it's the U.S. or Canada or UK or something, just something different. One of the things that is hard, especially because when you go in some of the all-inclusive resorts, the Hyatt's the Hyatt. No, no disrespect, love the Hyatt, but I mean, we're trying to encourage people to have a little more authentic experience down here.
Absolutely, and go beyond the wire.
Exactly. And I was wondering if you had any insights or tips that you can share with people so that when they come down here, they can maybe get a glimpse of the magic and an appreciation for the culture and everything that we have in this area.
Yeah, and it's not hard to do, but you just have to have a little bit of an adventurous soul. And I think my favorite way to travel is with as few plans as I possibly can have, and a ham sandwich and a road map, and that's pretty much all I need. And just head out onto the highway, and there's so many cenotes here, and as this area grows, it's becoming, cenotes are becoming more and more crowded, and so sometimes you've got to go a little bit more off the beaten path to really find a cenote where you're going to have the experience that you and I used to have, spending all day long in a, cenote El Eden in Puerto Aventuras, which I was there yesterday diving, and there's probably 150, 200 people snorkeling and swimming in it, and I remember spending the entire day there, and we were the only ones.
And we only paid with a package of cookies or a Coca-Cola to get in.
Exactly. And I think you might have had to walk a little bit further than you do now, but that's the magic. And so, obviously as development continues here, and cenotes, you can't pick up a guidebook without seeing the mention of the fact that you have to visit a cenote. And most day tours that you do around here will involve a stop at a cenote somewhere along the line. So finding a place, you've just got to go off the beaten track. And I think that probably off in kind of deeper in Yucatan, around Valladolid, there's some absolutely gorgeous cenotes around there that you just have to drive around. And when you see the sign in the little village that says cenote with an arrow pointing down that little dusty road,
follow that sign.
Follow that sign and see where it takes you. And then if you have the language skills, ask. And this is how we do it here is, are there any other cenotes around here? And could you show them to me? And then it's kind of this leapfrog from one to a cenote to the next. So that's, my advice would be go further inland. And along the coast here, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get access because a lot of the cenotes here are commercialized now. Yeah. So going further inland would give you kind of more of the experience that Kay and I had 20 some odd years ago when we first got here.
When we were just pups.
Yeah. Sorry to bring up our age.
That's okay.
So, yeah, and I mean, there's beautiful places here. The Xiankan Biosphere Reserve is absolutely hands down. If I have one place to take friends when they're here visiting, that's it. And I just love supporting the community tours out of Muyil. Mm-hmm. And even if it's the short tour to Xlapac and floating down the canal, people are just blown away by it.
It's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah. And I have twice recently done more of a half-day tour where we're actually doing exploration in the Biosphere Reserve in the coastal lagoons of Lagoon Capechen and Bocapaila. And you can hire a boat for half a day to go kind of out into that area, and we saw manatees and crocodiles, and
I want to see a manatee.
Well, you need to go with Sam. So it's Siankan is another place I love, and it only has 1.6 million acres of preserved land, so there's plenty of space out there. There's also community tours in Punta Allen that take you into the southern portion of the reserve, and you'll see a different variety of life there. Dolphins.
I was just down around Punta Allen and saw dolphins, and I was thrilled.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Great. And there was maybe just finally a couple other boats, but I mean, we had the place to ourselves.
No, it's cool. So you gotta. Well, like it's like exploring caves. You just got to go a little bit further afield, and you shouldn't be intimidated or afraid by doing that. Just be smart about it, and you will. I've lived here since 1994, and I still haven't done everything I wanted to do in this area, which to me is comforting. And there's still things I'm hearing about that I never even knew I could do here, which is comforting as well. So I love this place.
My heart's here too.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Sam, if people want to get in touch with you for more information about the exploration work you do, or to learn more, how can they reach you? Or do you have a website that you recommend? What do you say?
Yeah, our website is currently down, www.cindaq.org. We're on Facebook, and info@cindaq.org. We are a registered nonprofit here in Mexico. We also are able to receive donations from the United States, and we have what's called a fiscal agent in New York City, the Friends of Mexican Development Foundation, established by the family of former President Miguel Alemán. And the beautiful thing about that is that we can receive donations in the United States. 100% of the funding that is donated to us arrives here in Mexico. And we put it to use in allowing us to do the work that we do in exploring in the caves and educating people about them. So we welcome all sizes of donations.
Great. No, I'll put links on the website and everything about that for Facebook, and also the spelling of your website and everything like that.
Wunderbar. Thank you.
Wunderbar. No, thank you, Sam.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful place here, and more than anything, the friendships that I've gotten here, you included, Kay. And for all of you Loco Gringo listeners out there, Kay is very modest, but we're going to turn the microphone around on her next time, and I'm going to interview her about her incredible exploits here early on in her career as a cave diving explorer, because Kay was involved in some of the discoveries of some of the most iconic places we get to dive today, and I don't think enough people appreciate or realize that. I haven't even begun. So, anyway, have a wonderfully Loco Gringo day.
Hey, thanks so much, Sam. Well, are you inspired now to move down here? Do you want to move down here and have a little place of your own? Well, then you need to talk to our friends at By Playa. You know, they have a friendly and knowledgeable international staff. They speak lots of languages, and they are known as being a buyer's agent. Well, what does that mean? That means they are only going to show you and sell you properties they know that have escrituras. An escritura is a title. And it's part of their due diligence to make sure the title is clear, there's no liens, and that the person who's selling the property is actually the owner. By Playa works with lawyers that specialize in fideicomisos, which is a Mexican trust. You may have heard of it already before. And they can address things such as capital gains problems immediately and right up front, so that you have no surprises along the way to closing. So contact our friends at By Playa at buyplaya.com. Well, thanks for listening today. But before you go, just a reminder, if you're coming down to the area and you want to do a little exploration and discovery yourself, perhaps not to the extreme that Sam is doing it, we have lots of great things that we think you'll love on our website at locogringo.com, whether you're into history, culture, the natural environment. We have lots of great content for you there. And for today's show notes, locogringo.com/podcast, so you can find the links over to Sam's nonprofit organization, their Facebook page, and Sam's email address so you can keep up with their discoveries.
Thanks for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe. For links, show notes, and more information, head on over to locogringo.com or give us a call toll-free at 800-478-0081.
Porque se tragó la luna, estaba enferma la rana, su madre soba que soba, dedos de pluma la panza, pensó ranita que luna era una toronja blanca, y aunque la luna es de leche, la leche estaba cortada. Croa, croa, dedos de pluma, croa, croa, dedos de agua, croa,